divide the day into quarters. What is the proper way to interact with light in the first part of the day?
So I honestly think the easiest thing is waking up. Get as much light as you can.
Into your eyes.
Yeah, it's really nice. Your system is primed. If you're in train, it's primed to get light. The sun should be out. Most animals in the wild, they actually track the sun. The sun has a huge influence on life on Earth. It's actually life on Earth is because of sun. So that's easy. In the morning when you wake up, you need light.
Okay,
Just
so what
get
is
light.
the behavioral practice that you recommend? Does it, let's say somebody is in a condition where there's a lot of cloud cover.
Yeah.
Is it important to get outside?
So I have to tell you, a cloudiest day is going to be much more brighter than your room. You could ask any photographer. A cloudy day, unless it's really dark clouds. Usually cloudy days have much more bright outside than inside the room, even when you have good lighting inside the room. So I think in the outside is usually, even when it's cloudy, you're going to get enough intensity to help you adjust your cycle to the day-night cycle.
So how long do you, these are general rules of thumb, but how long do you recommend people go outside?
So if you do it daily, you possibly need if you do it daily, because remember this thing is going to happen on a daily map.
So,
I would say
so the
15
clock
minutes.
is tracking it on a regular basis.
Absolutely. It's photon counting, it's tracking. I would say 15 minutes. If you don't do it daily, you may want to increase it. And we'll talk about when you travel what you could do. But yeah, 15 minutes should be fun. You do it more, it doesn't hurt.
And through a window, my understanding is that through a window, it dramatically decreases the amount of light energy coming in.
It depends of how thick the windows are and how dark they are. So but it's also nice to go outside and to feel the season.
Sunglasses on.
I don't use sunglasses.
Yeah, well, you have the Jordanian pigment,
Yeah,
so
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah. Whereas my eyes are very sensitive,
Yeah.
right?
No,
So-
but I personally, if I'm in the shade or if it's not incredibly bright, I try to, especially in the morning. But I'm also an early person, so we have to differentiate between
What
early.
time do you wake up?
I wake up at 4:30 in the morning.
The sun isn't.
It's
out
not
yet.
out yet,
So what do? You turn on artificial lights?
I usually don't turn on artificial light because I know the sun is going to come up eventually. But that's why I don't like the change in the timing that they do.
Wait, well, what do you do between 4:30 a.m. and 7 a.m.?
I mean, I just got my computer
Oh, I
and my
see.
phone, so possibly I get enough light. But in reality, I mean, as long as you let your body get the morning sunlight, which I think is really, to me, and there's no evidence, but to me this is, if you look at all animals, plants, this morning sunlight seems to be very important. And we don't have experiments to show it, but I have a gut feeling that it has a huge impact on a human.
Well, Jamie Zeitzer's lab at the Stanford Institute lab has shown that these early morning light flashes can adjust the total amount of sleep that one will get, makes it easier to get.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so
And Ken Wright also does beautiful camping experiments that should.
right, maybe you should describe those because those are beautiful experiments.
They are beautiful experiments. He took these college students that had a late onset of sleep and late waking time, and then he said, let's go camping and just don't use any artificial light, and you could go to sleep as late or as early as you want and wake up as late as early. And he found a huge shift in their sleep pattern just by exposing them to the light dark cycle. I mean, so
And it lasted.
And it lasted.
Even after they came back.
Exactly.
I think it was 2 days of camping, reset the circadian
7
clock.
days, but it lasted. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, it's really incredible.
Okay, so get bright light of some sort early in the day, ideally sunlight. Even on a cloudy day, it's going to be
Absolutely.
brighter than indoor light.
So that's easy.
Okay, so then
And the other thing that I would like to mention to people, if you think it's very dim outside, let's say it's very cloudy, stay longer. So remember, intensity is only one component. Duration is also important, because remember that the circadian system is not like the image system. In the image system, you have to change every second because you're looking at different objects. You have to change your perception. But for the circadian system, it's trying to figure out where am I in the day-night cycle. So the more you give them the information, the better you are. So if it's very bright, you don't need a lot because it's clearly going to make you fire like crazy. But if it's not bright, stay longer. Stay for 1 hour. Have your coffee outside or something like that. It's just going to help.
I think you said something extremely important, which is that the circadian system is trying to figure out when you are in time. not where you are in space.
Sorry, I said where you are in time. I mean when you.
Oh, no, I wasn't correcting you. I just meant that I think fundamentally that's the incredible thing about the system. That you have this clock, this 24-hour clock in your brain, but it needs to be synchronized to the outside. So could we go a little deeper into this circadian setting behavior and come up with some general rules of thumb? So let's say it's a very bright day, extremely bright. No clouds, sun's out. You said 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
And I'll tell you, if you're sensitive, you don't even have to go in the sun. You could be in the shade. There's going to be so many photons out there in the shade. It's going to be perfect. You don't even have to see the sun. You don't have to have the sun. It's great for vitamin D. That's a different story. You could do this for your skin and protect your skin. That's not my area of expertise. But for that effect on the circadian system, as long as you're outside in the shade and sunny day, 10 to 15 minutes should be ample amount.
Okay. And then let's say it's kind of overcast. It's not particularly bright and it's solid cloud cover, but obviously the sun is out, but it's not as bright. How long do you think it would take to set the clock?
10 to 15 should be sufficient. Stay for half an hour. Stay for 45 minutes. If it's very dark around, stay for long.
Okay. And if for some reason one finds themselves very far north and it's very, very dense cloud cover, how long and at what point should somebody consider using an artificial light source to mimic the sunlight?
Yeah, honestly, this is where we don't have a lot of information still, because this is where we're going to discuss this maybe in more detail, that if you put humans in artificial conditions, the circadian system is very sensitive to light. But in reality, in the real environment, light also is affecting other aspects that are independent of the setting of the circadian pacemaker.
Okay.
And these which we call the direct effect of light on mood, for example. So that is very hard to figure out what intensity you need to use, and we haven't done enough experiments because the system has been discovered just recently. But I would say if you use bright light in the morning, and I mean it's hard for me to give numbers, it can get complicated. But yeah, I mean if you're that far north and you're in the winter and you want to make sure you don't use these light boxes, I would suggest that personally, but that's this.
I use, it's actually not designed for circadian setting, but I have a 930 lux light pad that I bought, and I bought it, they're very affordable compared to the dawn simulating lights, which are quite expensive, frankly. And I put it there, and so I just basically, when I wake up in the morning, I use that until the sun comes out, and then I make sure once the sun is out, I go outside, but I keep that thing on all day. And I don't know if that's good or bad. Is it good or bad?
I don't think being exposed to bright light in the day is going to ever be bad, because really, if you're outside in the day, unless, the worst going to happen is the temperature is very high, your body's going to say, don't dehydrate and go to sleep. So you could tell actually sometimes when it's very hot, the more you get exposed to bright light, the sleepier you feel in the afternoon, which is counterintuitive.
But that's to protect us, you think, against dehydration?
I think if you think about the human evolution from near the equator between noon and a certain time in the afternoon, it would have been very hard for you to maintain physiological homeostatic function being active at this very high temperature time. So I think napping was a way, that's why I think it has a major function, napping was a way to somehow take you away from that dangerous zone. And maybe that's why people in the north, they say in the winter we can't wake up in the morning because they don't have this long light, so they sleep it more at night. But in the summer, they say we feel like we can't go to sleep, we have to put all these dark curtains. So I think, venturing that much more up north came up with a problem, because evolution was used to a certain light environment that was completely changed with a human. With other animals, I think, that live there longer, they have come up with very interesting adaptation of actually measuring even very small changes in the light intensities that still occur. So even if you're near the poles, even though it's always light, but there is a change in the light intensity across the day-night cycle. So your system, if it's linear, and remember I told you that IPRGCs are incredibly linear, can still measure, this is lower light and higher light if the organism has that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've spent so much time learning from you, fortunately, about these cells, and yet I never really appreciated until now how